Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. My name is Kyle. I'm not joined by my co-host just yet. Hall will be here very, very shortly. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of today's episode is A Game of Inches. And obviously, being a post-game of what happened tonight where the Steelers inched out Washington, you could say 28-27. And the Game of Inches has multiple meanings to it. I know that Johnny Newton is probably feeling horrible right now. Me, myself, I've been subject to jumping off sides in a crucial situation, and I know how, I'm not going to say embarrassing, but the disappointment that you have and just, you want to make a play, and obviously, like, I wouldn't even put that on Newton if anyone wants to blame Newton for jumping off sides there. I think that also goes on to Bobby Wagner and the leaders defensively saying, chill out, like they went off the field, came back in. You have to know that there's something up there. You know, just letting the young man know, everyone on the D-line, don't jump. Even Charles Davis was saying this on the TV broadcast. But look, let's talk about this game overall before we get into our fan questions, before Hall joins me at some point. First off, Washington barely lost this game. And going into this game, we knew it was going to be difficult. We knew what the Steelers like to do, defensively and offensively. Total yards for this game, passing yards, the Steelers had 172. Washington had 182. In rushing yards, Washington had 60, and the Steelers had 140. That being said, I know that 140 seems like an exuberant amount, but Jaylen Warren was our leading rusher today, had 11 carries for 66 yards. Averaged 4.7 on the ground. Najee Harris had 21 carries for 53 yards and a touchdown, averaging only 2.5 per carry. And it's very similar to what Washington put out offensively. Austin Eckler, 13 carries for 44 yards and 2 touchdowns. And so I think the real difference here in the game is going to be the time of possession. The Steelers had 36 minutes and 11 seconds to Washington's 23 minutes and 49 seconds. The defense for Washington was on the field a heck of a whole lot. But that doesn't negate the sort of plays that have been made. We go back to the preseason, and let's go back to that Miami game where Benjamin St-Juste gets beat over the top for a touchdown against a wide receiver for Miami, and they didn't have our starters playing in that game. And I said then, you can't play like that. If you're going to play in a certain manner, you have to be able to meet the competitive level of what you're facing against. And obviously that guy was motivated. Mike Williams coming here only had one target on the day, and his one target ended up being a touchdown. And the worst part about that play was the fact that Benjamin St-Juste is 10 yards off the ball. He's playing inside, forcing Mike Williams to go outside. And what are you playing there? Are you playing the out route? Is that what you're looking towards? Then allow the out route to develop. Why are you not staying over top of that route and getting ran by? If you have that 10-yard cushion, sustain that 10-yard cushion. Sustain the over top ability because you don't have help over the top. But this game comes down to the mental mistakes, the shooting in the foot, so to speak. A lot of plays. I know that there was a graphic at one point where Washington had, I think, like 5 plays. I think it was in the second and the third quarter for no or negative yards. And obviously give a lot of credit to the Steelers offensively, especially up front, defensively, especially up front with Cam Hayward and company. They did a very good job of being able to nullify things for the Commanders, of being able to run the football. Obviously being without Brian Robinson was huge. A lot of people will say that Jaden Daniels was off today. Look, I understand what you mean by that. He was 17 of 34 for 202 yards, throwing a 50% clip, not his usual self. He came into this game throwing a 71% completion percentage. I don't think it's all on Jaden, so to speak. I think Pittsburgh really took advantage of the injuries that Washington had up front. Brandon Coleman being a rookie at left tackle, this was a very tough task for that young man. Going against Alex Highsmith, going against TJ Watt at times, but also Trent Scott on the right side having to go against TJ Watt. They did a very good job of being able to suffocate Jaden to the point where he had to make something happen. And he obviously wasn't his usual self, you could say. But I think ultimately, when you force our offense into long third downs, that's when, especially when you have those defenders up front for Pittsburgh, that's when they're actually licking their chops. They're in a very good position to make a play on the football at that point. And that's what I don't think it was necessarily an off day for Jaden. Maybe, yes, he was not making the pinpoint throws that he needed to, but the drops were evident today. That Noah Brown drop at the end of the game where it just hits him in the chest. Like, that's one of those where it's funny because Noah Brown could catch the one over his head, for a first down. But when he has a jump for it, and it obviously there was contact by the DB, it wasn't pass interference. But it goes through his, and it hits his chest and he drops it. That's one of those, it's like, no, I need you to come down. Like, that is one that we needed, right? And that was monumental. It was a huge point in that game. And then the spot at the end, obviously, me being a homer, I'm going to sit here and say that was a first down. He's on the line, and I know the NFL's rule of if it's on the line, it's a first down. And of course, you have to have overwhelming evidence to be able to change the outcome of that play. But that's why this episode is called A Game of Inches. You need those. You need to get over. And I understand that this is the NFL. It's hard. The Pittsburgh is a very, very good frickin' team. But the fact is, Washington had ample opportunity to really take control of this game, and it was taken away from them. Before Hall gets here, we're going to do game beers. We're going to do chores. So I don't want to get into that so much so. So I do want to answer some fan questions before we move on and move forward. This first question we have was submitted by the Colonel and through text message. His question is, our free agent acquisitions, Dante Fowler and Clelin Ferrell Jr. were first-round pass rushers that underperformed their rookie contracts. Both have blossomed under Washington's defensive scheme. Please comment on how they've made up for the sudden and shocking trades of Montez Sweat and Chase Young last season. Obviously, Dante Fowler, early on in that game, really made a name for himself, getting 2 sacks, a huge difference maker here. And I won't even say it's just Dante Fowler getting into the mix. Frankie Louvu, the free agent acquisition, getting another sack in there. They are doing a very good job of mixing things up and getting after the passer. I've said this many times. Whenever a quarterback comes to Washington and plays in that stadium, it seems like, I'll never forget this. Watching that Ben Roethlisberger, there was at one point where Ben Roethlisberger takes a snap at his feet, picks it up off the ground, doesn't even look to his left, just throws a fade ball to Antonio Brown and hits him in stride. And I think it was for a touchdown. If not, it was a huge gain. And that, at that point, I was like, why? Why is it so, you don't even have to look over there, but you're putting the ball on the dot, And that's how I kind of felt about our pass rush today, where even if they were in Russell Wilson's face, he was still able to put the ball in certain locations. But for the most part, he didn't have a stellar day himself. 14 of 28, 95 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Obviously, which leads me to this. The defensive line did a very good job of being able to be disruptive. They really mixed things up on Russell Wilson to the point where he had to abandon a bunch, throw the ball away. But there were times where in the back end, they got beat a little bit. At times where you cannot allow it. You're looking back at that 3rd and 15 or 2nd and 15, whatever it was, and where George Pickens picks up the first down on I think a 30-yarder to get up the field. This went to this game saying you cannot allow big plays. In the red zone, they were 30th in the red zone coming into this game. You cannot allow big chunk yardage. You want to force them into this, which also goes into the Mike Williams touchdown for 33 yards. That's 3rd and 9. You got to stay over the top. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to crap on the Canadian too bad, but look, man, that's one of those things where it's like you have to be smarter than what you're going against. And you have to understand, give up that first down. That is fine. The one thing you cannot allow is the over the top. So stay over the top. I don't understand why this is so difficult. Before I go any further, I just want to say, not sure if you guys realize this yet, but I hate the Steelers. With a passion. I cannot stand them. And it's because of people I know, but it's also just because of the games that they win, their attitude, seeing Russell Wilson dance at the end, seeing the offensive line shaking his hips at the end. That really irks me, dude. Especially in an opportunity where Washington could have walked away with this. And with the spot being where it was on the Zach Ertz catch, But that's the NFL, and I cannot stand this. I really wish that we were 8-3, 8-2 right now. Being 7-3, now having to sit behind Philly, who's going against a beat up Dallas Cowboy team, doesn't sit well with you. But look, you have a chance to go against Philly on Thursday, and you have a chance to really put a stamp on the NFC East. But it's gonna be a hard turnaround. Injuries were prevalent today. Tyler Badass was out in this game. He came back in, was cleared to return. Obviously, Cornelius Lucas was not there. Andrew Wiley didn't play because of his shoulder. Trent Scott was in there. So I know I didn't really answer the Colonel's question, but the defensive line, those free agent acquisitions have been a huge freaking help, and it really has shown you the kind of production we weren't getting last season and the years before that. And I myself was very hard to be able to acknowledge that Chase Young was not playing to the level they should have. But obviously this season, we're really seeing what a force a defensive line that is hungry, that is getting after it, that is a force to be reckoned with, what they can do for your game plan. And they really were. They did a good job today. On third downs, the Steelers were 7 of 16. Obviously, less than 50%. You want that number to continue going down. But the big key here is the red zone, where they were 3 of 4 in the red zone, where Washington was 3 of 3. Going into this game, Pittsburgh was number 1 in the league on defense in the red zone. And so credit to the offense for when they got into that opportunity to get up short in the goal line, they converted those points. They did a good job at that. I did really look, I love Tomlin. I think he has the embodiment of a head coach that you want for a tough football team. He was the perfect marriage for Pittsburgh. But him complaining about the refs going into halftime is Joey Porter Jr. kind of brought it on himself. This is what he kind of plays like. And look, they were calling what they were calling. It is what it is. And Washington took advantage of it and got ahead of it. Now, the next question from the Colonel, which was a really good one. Disappointing loss. Completely winnable game to another AFC North team, the Ravens. We're mostly clicking on all cylinders, but have fallen short against these perennial playoff teams. Where are we falling short? We're falling short in running the football. And what I mean by that, going into that Ravens game, they were number 1 in rushing, defensively, going against the rush. Obviously, the Steelers, they have Cam Hayward up front. They have Patrick Queen as a linebacker. They are very good against the run. They know what they're going against. And with Brian Robinson, yes, he is an instinctive kind of runner, a hard runner. It's going to bleed you out, almost like Derrick Henry-esque. But when we go against teams that are very good against the run, we have a hard time being able to inflict our will upon them. Like you can pinpoint at times where they did run the ball well, but it's not to the point where it is a danger, it is a threat that we're able to actually do something right. It's almost like not trickery, but we do a very good job of confusing guys to allow open lanes. But when it comes down to it, and you have to move bodies, and you have that power running game, it seems like Washington does struggle because these defenses in Pittsburgh and the Ravens, they are kind of used to that sort of game plan, and they are very tough against the run. And so when you have to be able to move those bodies, it was hard for us. And that's where it goes into that Jaden Daniels thing, where people talk about Jaden Daniels having kind of an off game. It was Washington was forced in these long third downs, and that's inevitably what ended up crippling them. And on third down, where Washington was 5 of 14 offensively on third down. And that bleeds into not being able to run the ball consistently, not being even in the red zone, they ran the ball very well. When they did get the ball to Austin Eckler, he was getting up on the goal line. They were able to move the guys when they needed to. But for the most part, overall in the game, it was something that was lacking. And the time of possession will tell you that. So I just want to say Washington really struggles in the power running game. So we have to understand what we're looking at when they do run the ball well is typically because they're able to make that misdirection, get you off counter, and be able to bleed you out with a blocker rolling over. But Pittsburgh and teams like this are good against that. And so do you have another way of doing it? And that's where Brian Robinson comes into play, where that tough running the football, being able to move guys forward, being able to find something out of nothing. And I don't want to take anything away from Austin Eckler because he did what he needed to today. But ultimately, it comes down to weight on weight, moving guys around. And I'm not a man of excuses, but the injuries definitely played a part, I will say, in that sort of realm, where, yes, you have to acknowledge that Tyler Badass got nicked up in this game. I know Allegretti's probably dealing with something. But the fact is, you have to be able to run the football if you want to be a playoff team and go against these sort of perennial playoff teams that are tough. You have to be able to move guys around. And today, Washington was not able to do that for only rushing for 60 yards. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. But looking forward, that's something that they have to be able to look at and say, we have to get better at the power running game. And when all holds barred, when they know what's happening, we have to be able to say, we're going to run the ball and you are not going to be able to stop it. Because as of right now, it seems like that is the case where they don't have that in their arsenal. Now, one next question I have is from Christian in the UK. Thank you, Christian. Christian Burt. Not an excuse, but maybe from an ignorant UK perspective. How does the league decide a bye week team by team? Week 13 seems kind of ridiculous when Steelers just got off fresh. It's hard to say, but ultimately it's based on like your schedule, who you're playing against, what they want to dictate in terms of what teams they want to have showcase this certain week. Obviously, the primetime games go a lot into that, but ultimately I think it comes down to basically I couldn't tell you concretely why the NFL decides when they want to do these things, but it sucks that you have to go against a team that is you could say fresh, but I'll just say an extra week of preparation against you. And obviously it's going to happen against every team. Like the Bears were able to come off a bye versus us. We were able to squeak out that game. We knew the Steelers coming into this game were 13-4 coming off the bye. And as much as that is the case, as much as Washington is beat up at the moment, they still fought their asses off, man. So look, I don't want to get into much of the bye weeks. Obviously, that is sort of an excuse, Christian. But to your point, I couldn't really tell you why or how the NFL comes to the conclusion of when bye weeks are supposed to be. You would like to know and have that bye week earlier, especially now, given the circumstances. Like I've said, one of the main reasons why the bye week is there is so teams have an extra week of preparation for their opponent the following week. The earlier in the season that you are, the better. Because going into the season, you don't know how teams are going to play things. New coordinators, new players, everything gets mixed around. Well, our bye week being in week 14, we already kind of know at that point what a team likes to do. So it's not really like that preparation and that bye week is essentially going to help you. All that week 14 bye week is going to do is allow just a little bit extra rest before the playoffs. The issue being is you have to be able to win games to get to the playoff. If you're not in the playoffs by week 14, what good does it do you? And it doesn't. And so that's where it kind of puts a thorn in the backside for Washington, just in terms of where their bye week is. His second question is, I'm being harsh, and process likely dictates Senate is a year two guy. But Ertz's lack of anything after catch is annoying AF. We just can't ride with Zach, I guess. I don't want to get on. Zach was me in flag football. In all men's flag, it's 7-on-7, and the offensive lineman can go out for passes. All right, I played center, and I was notorious for finding ways to get open, but after the catch, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't evident. I'm just there to be there. That being said, Christian, the drops are a concern, especially against the Ravens. That was another thing that we saw where he just wasn't there. When you really truly need him, we need you to catch those balls. I know Zach Ertz is probably kicking himself right now, especially for that drop early on third down where we needed to move the chains. It was an easy, clear-cut first down. Drops right out of his hands. You being a tight end, that's what your job is to catch the football. And honestly, the yards after the catch is a plus, typically for a tight end. You would love to have a guy like Travis Kelce who could be able to create things after the catch. But most of the time, a guy like Pat Freiermuth is a very good example, where just get him the ball, he's going to catch the football for you. You're not expecting yards after the catch, but when you throw the ball to him, he's going to catch it. And that's ultimately what tight ends are supposed to be. Just that safety blanket, find me, I'll catch it for you, and I'll get down the field. And so I'm not going to beat him up on the yards after the catch, but the drops were obviously an issue today all around. Noah Brown had 3 receptions for 33 yards on 7 targets. A couple drops. Noah did a great job on the Hail Mary. He had a couple fantastic catches in this game, drawing defensive pass interference penalties. But ultimately, when you need it the most, we need you to catch that football on that third down. And I don't want to get him too bad. It is what it is. The Hail Mary came through for us. but we need you to catch the ball. And it seems like that was something that was happening today. And some people would point to the quarterback being slightly off. I get that. But the fact is, if that ball hits you in the chest, if that ball is anywhere in your radius, unless you're getting held, unless it's a DPI, you should be coming down with it. I'm not going to talk about what's in their wallets or their contracts or anything like that. I think that all is just ridiculous. Guys make mistakes. Guys drop footballs. But inevitably, at the end of the game, it's a game of inches. And you have to be able to get those tough catches to help your football team. And today it didn't happen. This is the NFL. This is what happens. You go against very good football teams. You can't make mistakes. It is what it is. We're not going to cry about it. We got to get better from it, because going against Philly on Thursday night on a short week, you got to wash it out of your brain. I know in the post-game pressers, they talked about the 24-hour rule. I would say it's even less than that. I'd say it's 12 hours. You got 12 hours to go home, watch the tape. And I know Jaden Daniels talked about playing video games and watching the tape and everything. Please do, dude. Get this out of your system. Get back into it. Starting tomorrow, you're going to go into that day saying, we're playing Philly this week. That's out of our head, because you don't want to happen what's happening to the Chicago Bears, where that Hail Mary crippled them, and they have not responded since. That's what you don't want. You want to move forward, and you want to be able to inflict your will on the next opponent on a short week. We know you're banged up, but this is no time for excuses. This is no time for feeling sorry for yourself. And I truly trust that this team is going to be able to do that, to be able to come in to next week and look forward and say, that's not who we are. That's not what we do. But the shooting themselves in the foot has been an issue this season. It has. They're a young football team. And Johnny Newton, look, I want to get into this real quick. Oz. Alamati Zaccheaus, we talked about it on Wednesday, saying this was not the game for him to cough that ball up and give a short field, and he did. It sucks. It really sucks. I know Dan Quinn, his presser, said he works really hard, and I know that. It's just, if it is a problem, you got to get better at it, because Jamison Crowder is sniffing there. And not only are you worried about your job and being able to continue catching punts and showcasing yourself, you let the team down, because the Pittsburgh offense really depends on short fields. And you cannot allow them easy points and give them the ball in the red zone. You have to force them to get down the field. Because obviously our defense did a fantastic job. Jeremy Chin, 13 tackles, had an interception, a fumble recovery at the goal line there. They battled, man. Defensively, they were on the field a lot, but they battled their ass off, dude. All game long, they were in the mix, getting after Russell Wilson. They were a force. And as much as they were on the field, that never wavered in terms of not production, but just their hustle. They were hustling the entire game, man. They were getting after the quarterback. They were running to those tackles. Tackles seemed to be sort of an issue today at times, but for the most part, they did everything that they could to make sure that this game was staying close. It's just a handful of plays. It's the Oz muff punt. It's the Benjamin St. Juste touchdown that he gave up. It's the... I don't even want to get on Noah Igbinogi for that first touchdown, because that catch by George Pickens was ridiculous. I mean, Russell Wilson is off the mark on that ball. Typically that's incomplete, because a guy has to contort his body as he's falling backward this way, has to contort his body to be able to catch that football. Noah doesn't know where it's dropping. He's just looking for the hands. As soon as the hands come up, he wants to swipe it. Fact is, George Pickens had to contort his body so much so that Noah didn't even have a chance to knock it out of his hands because of how far off base that throw was. But George Pickens had a very nice play. And Joey Porter Jr., Terry McLaurin, 5 receptions for, 113 yards on 6 targets. Drops weren't an issue for Terry today. Terry came through for his team. I don't care what anyone says. That is an elite wide receiver in this football league. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, he gets hawked at times. That's great. That's fantastic. All those other guys are headaches sometimes. Terry McLaurin isn't. You could say an elite, whatever this and that. That's fine. But Terry McLaurin continues to show up no matter what the competitive level is. And that's somebody that I would take on my football team 10 out of 10 times. Any given Sunday, twice on Sunday, I'd go to work. I'd go to war with Terry McLaurin and this football team, to be honest with you. What I learned today, and because that's my first thing here, is what did we learn? And we learned that Washington is a young team overall. Pittsburgh, that is a concrete, stable organization and team that have been together for a while, besides the quarterback, obviously. But they know their MO. They know what they want to do. They know what they, and with Washington, the fact that they were able to battle with Pittsburgh as much as they were able to scrape, they were able to claw, do everything in their power to keep this a close game, tells you that they are very similar teams in terms of what they want to do, what they like to do. But Pittsburgh is just that veteran aspect. It is just that little inch that got them there. Not coughing the ball up on a punt return. You know what I mean? And obviously that early on fake punt, which was obviously crucial for Washington. It was almost like a one-off in a sense. But that's the difference in the game at the end of that game, where it's like you have that fundamental slated up front. They know what they want to do. And it's just that rookie making the mental mistake of wanting to make a difference in a very crucial point and just not calming down. I could tell you as soon as they got on the ball that they were very agitated. They were very quick. And that's not what you want in that situation. All right. I know we want to stop that 4th and 1, but you do not move until that ball is snapped. And it is what it is, but we're going to move on from it. Now, the next question that we have is submitted in the Discord. This one by Andy Lockhart in the UK from the 1 Point Safety Show, which go subscribe if you haven't yet. The UK blokes, oi! Andy and Scott, they are fantastic. They're fun to listen to and very knowledgeable. As much as I give crap to Andy and his football takes and how pessimistic he is, they know I love him. His question is, who cost us this game? I'm blaming the wide receivers. Way too many catches dropped. I wish you didn't ask me that question because it was Benjamin St. Juste. And I don't want to get on the Canadian too bad because he is what we have. All right, that's at the end of the day, that's all we got. But the unfortunate part is that mental mistake, and it's something that has really been an issue for him in his career in giving up those go balls. For some reason, he is petrified of that out route. That is the last thing that you need to be concerned about. Give up the first down. That's fine, dude. The last thing you want is giving up a big play. Naturally, in my mind, I think like a safety. No big plays whatsoever. Nothing over the top. If they want it shallow, go shallow. That's fine. That's all good with me, baby. And that's not typically what Benjamin St. Juste is thinking on those go routes. He's playing that, especially that Mike Williams one. He's playing the out route, looking at saying, oh, he's going to stop here. Nope, he didn't stop. He runs right by you. And guess what? It's an easy touchdown catch for them, and which it shouldn't have been. You make them fight. You make them claw up and down the field. And that's the one aspect where I think Mikey is just a little bit better in the sense of how he plays things and how he's up on people's hips. And obviously the defense did a good job today of those deep shots. They really did nullify things with the deep safety. They were over there in time whenever Russell tried to throw the ball deep. But I'm pissed off. I was pissed off with Benjamin St. Juste. I said multiple times tonight, Andy, I said, thanks a lot, man. But it comes down to those mental mistakes. And I think this was a team loss as much as I would like to get on just the wide receivers. But the special teams failed in the sense of Oz. They didn't on punt, like in being able to go down and make tackles, doing what they needed to. I don't think that kick return was an issue. They were actually a positive in helping us gain extra yardage. Austin Eckler was, again, an instrument in producing extra yardage for this offense when obviously they were struggling moving the football. And so they needed a spark, and Austin and punt really helped in that sense because they were coming down the field and they were nullifying things. But the special teams failed with the fumble. That's on Oz. The offense failed with the drops and not being able to run the football. The defense failed with Benjamin St. Juste because Benjamin St. Juste gave up those plays. And ultimately, that's what I think it comes down to. And when you go against these hyper-competitive teams, those mental mistakes go a mile. And that is the difference between a veteran team and a young team. And that's why Dan Quinn says, I hope that we really learn from this. And you have to go through those games to get to where you're going. And I 100% agree with him in that breath. Because that's what I ultimately think this game came down to is the difference in Veteran team, young team having to learn how to lose. I've always said this. You got to learn how to lose before you learn how to win. And obviously, they've done a great job of winning a lot of football games up to this point. But it's like that the difference here where your offense isn't clicking 100%. You aren't charging down the field, scoring a crap load of points. It's gonna come down to these sort of things, and the special teams is obviously a difference. What's up, Paul? Thank you for joining me, man.
Yo, what's good?
Question that we had from Andy: What lost us this game? He says it's the
um,
wide receivers.
no, I say it was a team effort. It was ourselves. It
Thank
was
you.
yeah, it was the wide receivers. Like obviously the wide receivers dropped passes. Zacchaeus dropped a punt return that resulted in a turnover, short field for them. Defense was missing tackles and giving up uh, third downs in key situations, getting penalties in key situations. Only thing I can say is the special teams did their job today. Tress was punting the hell out the ball,
Yep.
and the guy that we just signed did his job as far as extra points and field goals go. So,
Yep.
um,
Zane,
two,
Gonz-
two,
Zane Gonzalez, 2 for 2 on field goals and 3 for 3 on extra points.
exactly. So, and yeah, so two out of the three phases of the football were shooting themselves in the foot the entirety of the game. I said after the game was over on Twitter, like the days of like being the badly coached, getting blown out type of a team, because like like back in like the previous years, we drop a fumble like that, they go up early, the momentum swings, the crowd starts waving the towel, start going crazy. That's usually a blowout win for the Steelers versus us back in the day. This team, there's no more getting blown out by teams. There's no more bad coach teams. But the next step in this process is putting teams out and closing teams out when the time comes and the time is necessary, because you saw it with the Bears, you saw it with the Steelers. They're letting teams hang around, and I mean, obviously the Hail Mary it worked out for us that game, but we dominated that Bears game. I'm not gonna say we dominated this game, but we should have won this game. The score should not be what it was. So the next step in this phase of this team building and the next process is when you're up on a team and you got your foot on their neck, you got to stomp it. You got to close it out. So, but at the end of the day, you can't be mad at a loss like this, and I'm sure they'll grow from it. And again,
I'm pissed.
usually when they shoot themselves in the foot and they commit penalties like this and whatnot in games, they come out and play a clean game the next game. So we'll see how it goes in Thursday in Philly.
Yeah, I am pissed. Yeah, I told everybody before you got on here. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but I hate the Steelers. Like
Oh,
with a
bro, I was at Sport and Social down in Pike and Rose, and obviously I was with Gavin. There was some Steelers fans there, but it was a lot of Commanders fans out there that was repping. But yeah, typical Gavin, typical Steelers. They're cheering when they're up, and they was quiet the whole second half until that last Mike Will touchdown, and then they was yeah, told you. I was like, okay,
That's why I can't stand them, man. I can't stand them. Now the next question we have is submitted by Andy Lockhart in the UK. Oi, how would you rate
boy.
Trent Scott's performance, Hall?
Uh, I'd give him just an average like C, maybe like a B minus type grade. Like there's only one time like they put the graphic up in 50 snaps. TJ Watt had no tackles, no pressures. So obviously I'm not gonna put that all on Trent Scott because obviously they were chipping on him. They're giving him hella help on the right side.
Yeah.
But he did a pretty solid job until crunch time. When Dan Quinn calls winning time, that's when TJ Watt kind of got activated a little bit. You started to get after Jaden Daniels a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, I'd give him a B minus, maybe like a C plus type of grade, somewhere in that range.
I would give him a B plus, just given the fact of the circumstance and the situation he was put into. Going against TJ Watt, obviously they brought those chips in. You saw Terry McLaurin actually get one in on his chest really good, which knocked him off base. But I think that graphic was zero tackles and one quarterback hit, and that was the
In
one
50 snaps, yeah.
in the end zone. And so I would say a B plus given the circumstances. Obviously, you want the running the football to be better, but it wasn't like he was a liability overall, right? If they had called that hold in the end zone and forced a safety there, then I'd say probably a little bit less than that. But just given the circumstances, like I would give a lower grade to Brandon Coleman. just in the
Yeah,
sense
he
of
was getting worked a little bit by Highsmith.
he was. And look, that's a learning experience for Brandon Coleman going against one of the premier, a very good pass rusher that's been very good up until this point. I think he had 5 sacks coming into this game. Obviously, he gets nicked up, but I would give a little bit more benefit to Trent Scott, just given the circumstance that he was put into. That isn't easy to do, man. Coming off the
Yeah,
bench and
no, like I said,
yeah,
that's why because they were like giving him hella help, hella chips. Like if he was just doing it by himself the entire time and he only was doing that, then I'd be like, you know what? But again, he did an admirable job. Look, I like the fact that you are right. It was like a kind of like a last minute thing because everyone expected Wiley to go. He was active, and they were like, nah, just go out there and hold your own. So
I got you. Now, the next question is by Tim Towner. Now that we have 9 games on film, has the league caught on to what Cliff Kingsbury is doing and on to what JD5 likes to do? Or is it just a combination of injuries and playing better teams? Or is it because our bye is so late in the season and the players are just breaking down? Pitt had their bye week last week and we're fresh.
I would say that they're not really catching up to what we're doing because as you see, we're still putting up 24, 25 plus points per game. Um, Again, should have been more, but Jaden missed a couple throws, dumb penalties, shooting yourself in the foot, giving the Steelers short field, less chances for the offense to put points on the board. So I would say that Cliff is still calling him up. He's still dialing it up. It's just a couple things here and there that they're not clicking on and missing on a couple things here and there. And I would say, but as far as like the QB run game, I think that teams have caught on to that. You've seen Jaden over the past couple of weeks, rushing yards, the rushing totals have not been what they were in the first quarter plus of the season.
Nope.
But that's also, I think, more on Jaden trying to stay in the pocket and win from the pocket, win outside the pocket. But yeah, I don't think it's. I think it's more of attrition. Like you said, haven't had a bye week yet. Guys are getting nicked up. Injuries starting to pile up. But yeah, I think it's more of just guys just not making the plays when the plays are there. I don't think it's anybody catching up to Cliff. Again, they're still putting up 25, 24, 27 points a game at this point. So I think everything is fine. It's just you just gotta make the plays and the
Yep.
crunch time plays when they're there.
Yeah, and like the Terry McLaurin catch and run, one of those where, and it's, I agree with you. I don't think that the league is catching up on what Cliff is doing. I think that we played into exactly what Pittsburgh wanted to do defensively. And I talked about this earlier where the plays, the negative yardage, shooting themselves in the foot, getting sent in those long third downs where Pittsburgh now can pin their ears back and get after you. And that's where it was hard for Jaden because one thing I gave credit to Pittsburgh before we even played this game was that they play Lamar very, very well. And
Yeah,
they know how to get after Lamar and make him do things he doesn't like to do. And that's what one thing coming into this game was, are they going to have that same effect? Obviously, Jaden Daniels is not Lamar Jackson, but just in the sense of what the legs can do to you. And that's what Pittsburgh does naturally, is they take that element away. It doesn't help that your guys are not executing on those throws. They're not catching every single football that they should in those crunch times. And that's where it comes up to. It's a game of inches, literally. And that's
yep.
where the Zach Ertz catch, where that third down where he drops it, comes into play. Obviously, the Diami Brown drop in the end zone. A lot of people are going to get on my boy Diami, but look, you had a great release. I know he was excited, but calm down, my dude. Just
They
catch the
still
football.
scored anyway, also.
I know
So it's
that's my whole point is. I'm not going to beat on it too much. We still
right.
scored, but the fact is, catch the football. And that one Noah Brown one, you wanted Noah to maybe take a step inside because as much as he had 2 to 3 yards of separation on the DB at that point, he had to slow down for that ball. And obviously, Jaden is just trying to put in a favorable spot, right?
I was
But
just gonna say that, yeah, because
the safety was
when that
coming over.
happened, yeah, when that happened, I was kind of like, I looked at, I was with a Stray, little Ryan Stray was there too, but then he was like, "Oh,
I missed
Jaden
that guy.
underthrew that." What's up?
I missed that guy.
I know, right? I haven't seen him in a while. That was the first time I seen him in a minute. But he was like, "Oh, Jaden underthrew that," and I was like, "Yeah, but he underthrew it because there was a guy coming over the top. So if he would have tried to throw it over the top, it would
Right.
have been like either like a whole shot type of throw, or he was about to set Noah Brown up to get lined up on the sideline. So I like the throw that he made. It was just Noah. He kind of alligator armed it and hit him in his chest. So
Yeah, which is unforgivable in my opinion. But
yeah.
I think the drops obviously were a concern in this game, and I don't think that Cliff Kingsbury is being found out.
Nah.
I think
They're still
Washington.
getting big chunks in the run game. Like
Washington being injured up front, especially with Tyler Badass, did hurt things at times, especially with running the football. And I've said this for a while, to be able to execute and score a lot of points, you need to be able to run the football effectively. They ran the ball effectively in the red zone, but besides that, it was very tough to be able to move the ball there. And it's not like Jaden Daniels has been our only rushing asset this season. We've been able to be able to do that and run the ball well, but credit to Pittsburgh and their defense because they were able to nullify it today, which goes into my point about going against these very good run defensive teams. We have to find the one strength in the say strong running game, stuff it down your throat regardless of what you want to do. It seems like the Ravens and the Steelers were in the same MO where they were able to nullify things. And like we have to be, if we want to reach the next level, you have to be able to run the ball in those situations and do it well, in my opinion, because at times some of those running plays are putting them in negative situations, and that's where against teams with good pass rushers, they're licking their chops at that point. Now, the next question from Yem Sensei Hall. Even in a winning season, why can't we keep these fans of other teams from taking over our stadium? JFC.
I think for the most part, it's been a favorable percentage of our fans compared to the other teams, away teams fans for all the home games so far. I would just say that the Steelers are a different type of fan base. They travel no matter, just kind of like the Packers fans. They travel any and everywhere, no matter where you go. There's a lot of Steelers fans in the area. Pittsburgh's only what, like 4 or 5 hours away from
Yep.
Maryland, so
My
it's a quick.
in-laws, Steelers fans.
Exactly, it's a quick drive down 95 for the Yinzers, so they can come invade the stadium. There's a lot of Pittsburgh's fans in the DMV area because they're the one of the more popular teams like the Cowboys. They got fans in all 50 states, different countries. So they're one of like those staple franchises where their fans travel no matter what team it is, no matter what stadium it is. It's going to be 60-40, 50-50 with their fans no matter what. So at the end of the day,
Stupid towels.
yeah, it is what it is. But
Stupid.
I would say that yeah, I feel like this season alone has brought back the fan base and made a home field. The players have said it. They felt the home field advantage for the past 4 or 5 home games, whatever it's been so far this season. So I think that the fan base is coming back. The home field advantage is coming back. It's just the Steelers are that that one like uh, what do you call it, outlier. They're one outlier fan base that no matter what stadium, all 31 stadiums other than their own, they're going to travel out there and pack it out.
You guys have to understand that a lot of these tickets were purchased earlier in the year. As soon
That's
as
it.
as soon as they announced at Hall, I mean, you're a great example. Gavin and Hitchell was like, "Yo, do you want to go to the game with me against Pittsburgh early in the summer?"
Yep,
As soon as it came out. And
literally.
one thing you do have to consider is guys our age. Hall and I are very like unique people in the sense of we are Washington everything. Like it's not like it's the same like we're fans of the Lakers or we're fans of the Yankees. Like it's straight up Washington, right? In this area, typically because the Steelers have won in every decade, they have had success in every
Especially
single.
like people our age.
Exactly, and that's my point here is that you're seeing that guys our age aren't necessarily Washington fans because it was hard to go to school with a Washington jersey on. It was hard to cheer for Washington when they're getting wiped everywhere, and so they go and find other outlets. They find
Yep.
like I love the tweet from Nick Akers saying, "Oh, my uncle lived in Pennsylvania for a year, so I'm a Steelers fan." Type beat. Do you know what I'm saying? And like I
Yeah.
understand what he means by that because I've seen it myself. And so we just have to understand that it's not because they sold the tickets to opposing fans. This is something that has been in the works for months. And obviously, us as Washington fans, it's hard for everyone to buy in that early. But this is a kind of realization for everybody to say if you don't like Steelers fans coming in and being in a big amount, you got to buy tickets. You got to be the ones buying the tickets. And look, I can be blamed. I'm not a season ticket holder. I almost had a chance to go today. I really wish I could have, but the fact is, I answered too late. And shout out to Deuce who offered it, but like I was too late to answer because my phone was charging. I'm pissed off about it because this wouldn't be happening right now. And I probably would have more time to steam and cool off a little bit. But I, besides Dan and my in-law, my father-in-law, stepfather-in-law, and my brother-in-law Cole, Besides them, I really don't like the Steelers. Like I root for them because I want those guys to be happy, right?
Yeah.
Like my stepfather-in-law after church day even said to me, he was like, I'm a Steelers fan, like because he asked me how the game was going to go. I was like, it's going to be tough. So we know it's a really tough situation going into this, but he was like, I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm rooting for Washington today, and I was like, that makes no sense. I know he's a huge Washington fan. They go up there all the time for games and stuff, but it's like hearing him say that, that's how nice he is. But like
Right.
I I hate them so much, and just the stupid like the one coming out of a timeout, and it's showing that one guy in the lower section just like put the
Yeah.
fucking put it down, dude. Like, do you go to sleep like this, or are you on the toilet doing this? Like,
Right.
come go, dude, get a life. God, I hate the towel. I hate the towel so much. Now the next question we have is submitted by Arch. What will be the biggest? Of course, I lost it. Hold on, it's right here. What will be the biggest overreaction to the game?
Biggest overreaction to the game is that we can't beat so-called in quotes good teams. We can't beat the top tiers in the NFC or then in the league, and the overreaction would be that we are not a NFC East type winning type of team. We are more of like a wild card team that's probably like a maybe like a frisky team in the playoffs instead of like how everyone had us like, oh, we can make a run in the playoffs, we can do this. But yeah, that would be my the biggest overreaction to my that I would think of is that we're not as good as everyone thinks as we are because we don't beat the top tier as what's seen as the top tier teams in the league.
I think the biggest overreactions, I'll name a couple, will be that Cliff Kingsbury has been found out, the offense has been found out, Jaden Daniels has been found out. I just think that the circumstances permitting really put them in a bad situation. I think the Johnny Newton highlight will be overreacted to. I've been in that situation before myself. It sucks. You hate being that guy, but the fact is that's what's going to happen. Is people are going to pile on you for it. Keep moving forward and learn from it. That's all you can do, and that was the difference in the game. Is the veteran, younger aspect of this, and it's amazing to see how they perform today, given that circumstance. Putting that in there, and then the other one will be the. Actually, I don't even think it's that much of an overreaction, but it's Benji. You know, it's like I talked about it. What did you see on that touchdown? Because what I said here 1,000 times already this episode is he's looking for that out route, and he just allows Mike Williams to run by him. And my whole point being is allow the out route if it happens, stay over top.
Right.
However,
And the crazy thing is, like, a lot of the people that have been covering the team have been saying that, like, Benjamin St. Juice is a guy that he'd rather give up the 10 to 15 yard out route or comeback route than give up the go ball, like the deep route or the anything behind him. And I think you're right. I think he was looking for another route. And I don't know how you let old, busted up, injury prone all the time Mike Williams, that's not even like in his prime anymore. He's on the back, not even back nine. He's on the back three of his career right now. You let him run past you on a go route. And I mean, at that point, look, it was a good throw by Russell Wilson.
great
Even though
throw.
St. Juice kind of definitely recovered, he was there. But it was a good throw by Russell Wilson. That's what he excels in, those moon balls. And of course, the guy that beats us and wins the game is the guy that they just literally just added this week. But I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I think he was banking on a different route, and
Yeah.
they hit him with the go route, and he wasn't expecting it. Couldn't recover in time because he's not a guy that has top tier speed, and he just got beat once again. But the problem is though, like if he had would have had a pretty good solid game leading up to that, and you give that up, it's like
Right.
you get beat in this league. It is what it is. You know, guys get paid too. But it's just when you get constantly flagged, you're constantly getting beat, you're constantly the one that's getting the go balls, the touchdown scored on you. It's like, all right, bro, like, come on, man.
Yeah, and look, I know it's got to be hard because you're in the NFL. Because one thing is Russell Wilson. Like what I gained from this one is as much as we knew that Russell Wilson loved to throw the deep ball, that thing is as much as he throws it high, that thing drops, man. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like perfect to the point where it's like perfect for George Pickens and
Yep.
wide receivers like that because it just falls. It's not like it's
It's
at
literally
an
right in the bread basket.
right, and it's like it's right at the point. Like even if it does fall, even if it's short, it still gives them the ability to go locate it and drop it in, right? They can adjust to it. It's not like it's on an angle, it has force on it. It just has that drop factor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that drop factor is huge. And it goes into that Mike Williams touchdown because that thing just dropped exactly where it needed to be. And obviously, Benji having 2 yards of separation on that didn't help whatsoever. At least we could get a hand in there, but it is what it is. The next question from Deluxe: were these two teams evenly matched? What was the difference in the game? Was this a Pittsburgh win or a Commanders loss? In other words, did the Commanders beat themselves?
Yeah, I say it was a Commanders loss. Evenly matched. Yeah, you could say they're probably evenly matched. Like our offense is better than our offense. Their defense is better than our defense. Um, I can say special teams probably even because they got a pretty good kicker and a pretty good punter. But yeah, I would say they're pretty evenly matched teams. I would just say that that was not a Steelers win. That was 1,000 and infinity% a Commanders loss.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it says a lot to that Zach Ertz reception at the end being inches away.
Hmm.
And that is obviously the huge difference in this. If Noah Brown catches that football, we're having a different conversation
I
right
mean, if
now.
Zach Ertz catches that over route coming across the middle
Yep.
on whatever down that was,
That was
just
third down.
dropped. Yeah, on third down, just dropped off his hands. I mean, if Luke McCaffrey or if Jaden Daniel doesn't miss Luke McCaffrey on that deep over route coming across, that might have been six if he makes a guy miss. So
Which
again,
go
like I said, going back to the earlier question, it wasn't just on one person, two people, three people.
mm,
That was a legit offensive and defensive. We shot ourselves in the foot loss for the team.
yes, and I actually agree with you. I don't think it's on any person individual. I think all three phases failed at points today. And I don't like that people are saying that Jaden was off today. I don't think that he was off. I think it's just what Pittsburgh was doing and what we were forced into is not our MO. And we had to kind of come up with things. And being at the end zone, having TJ Watt collapse on you, and it goes into that Russell Wilson type throw where Jaden more so throws that dart aspect of it, and that goes into that Luke McCaffrey thing where if that thing floats down, drops down a little bit more, giving Luke a little bit more time to get over there, that's the difference.
Right.
And it's not like Jaden was overly off today. He was putting the balls in very good spots, and our guys just were not coming down with it.
I was gonna say, I mean, there's at least 3 to 4 drops that we had, so the numbers push up a little bit, percentage pushes up a little bit. Now, did he miss some throws? Was he off some throws? Of course, but what quarterback is not going to miss a throw or two or three throughout the game? Like that happens. So, like I said, it was a whole team not just a whole team not collapsed, but a whole team like just not locked all the way in type of game.
And yes, these two teams were evenly matched, which says a lot given the injuries that we sustained going into this game
Yeah.
and them coming off of a bye. Think about that. Think about where we have come, what this team is doing. And I don't want that. As much as I hate this loss, as much as I cannot stand seeing that offensive lineman dance and seeing Russell Wilson do his corny dance, as
I
much as
know.
I hate that, the reality is they really went into a boxing match with one hand tied behind their back, and they did a very good job to go to the last round. They really made and went down to a decision, and it just ultimately is you just being the younger aspect of it, just not taking advantage of the opportunities that were there and coming down with the plays you need to, and that's the difference in this game. Ultimately, yes, they were evenly matched, which says a lot about this
You know
football
what
team.
else says that they're evenly matched? The fact that they were even going to go for it on 4th and 1 because they didn't want us to get the ball
Yep.
back. Because Mike Tomlin been around in this league a long time. He knows a guy like Jaden Daniels, you can't give him the ball back in this type of situation. So
Mm.
that just goes to show you for them to go in on 4th and 1 and not be like, let's punt it away, play it safe, rely on our defense is what we're built on. Let's just try to close it out here because
That being said, I do think that they were going to punt that ball. What I think they were going to do is they were going to let it run to no seconds, take the penalty to delay a game, give them extra cushion to punt that football, because you don't
I
want to
don't
be.
know. I think Mike T was going to go for it.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that they played that correctly. I think they went to the sideline and said, we can get them a jump. And they went up and did it. And they were going to liquidate it, get that extra 5 yards for the punt to get down and locate that. Because you don't want to be too far up when you punt, right? Because then it's a touchback. They wanted to pin us deep so we couldn't
Yeah.
come up for that field goal.
No, yeah, it's possible because if you really think about the game too, like guys like Luvu and whatnot were kind of seemed like they were kind of like trying to jump the snap count and like as soon as they were hiking the ball, guys were shooting gaps. So maybe Russ was like being the vet that he is, savvy vet. Like, hey, if I can get a hard count, I can maybe get him to jump here. Like, so
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, the last question we have, this one is from Tim Towner. He says, putting my reality hat on, I think we might be able to make the playoffs as a wild card, but obviously, in my opinion, from a talent standpoint, we need more. What positions are rising up your 2025 draft board in terms of need? For me, wide receiver moved back up the board, he says.
well, at minimum, they're a wild card team. Like at this point, unless there's like some ridiculous, crazy collapse down the stretch, like at minimum, they're going to be maybe like a fifth seed, probably at the most, because they already got 7 wins. But we'll see how the season plays out. But answer your question, cornerback is going to be number one on the list because this is last year of St. Jude's contract. I mean, I doubt they're probably going to bring him back, but who knows? But cornerback, someone opposite Lattimore, and to go with Sammer still in that rotation. Maybe they bring back Noah I as well as a depth guy. They're going to need a cornerback to add to this defense. Wide receiver, I would say, is probably a priority. We need another guy to go opposite Terry that can be like a legit, like number two type of target, create more separation, kind of like Dotson his first like rookie year. A guy that can complement Terry, take some coverage off of Terry, and be a little bit more consistent than the Noah Browns, the Oz's, the mixture of guys that we have now. And I'd probably say right tackle is probably a
Damn.
need just because Andrew Wiley's getting up there in age. He's definitely had a better season than he had last year. That's obviously due to scheme and play calling, but he's a guy that's getting up there in age, and we need a lot more depth and younger talent on that line going forward.
Look, yeah, as much as we need more talent right now, it's easy to say that. We are beat up overall, but yes, I would say right tackle, of course. Wide receiver, you could always add more at wide receiver, just not paying top dollar for one and trading for it. I think that uh, linebacker is another one that you could point to say, like, creating maybe edge, just opposite.
I forgot about edge
I don't want to
rusher,
take
but
anything
yeah.
away from Dorrance Armstrong or those other guys, but it's like, Dante Feller's working his ass off. And just to be like you saw today with the Steelers, having Highsmith and Watt, what that can ultimately do for you, essentially. Obviously, that's a difference there as well. But corner obviously is up there because you can never have too many really good corners on your team, given the circumstances permitting and what's going on there. But I do think that you're right about everything that you're saying. It sucks that they lost this game. I'm pissed off about it. In the manner that they did lose, it sucks that you're doing it right on a short week, But
Yeah.
the good thing is it's a mini bye after this, after the Eagles game, and that's one thing to consider. Is as much as it is a short week and that sucks, they will have rest time afterwards. So this is no time to chill. Game right immediately after.
You got to get right back to
Yeah, they were saying in the locker room a 24-hour rule. I was like, dude, it should be a 12-hour rule, to be
it.
honest.
It should be as simply walk out the locker room type rule. Like just
Yep. Take it out of your brain and just learn from it as much as you can on what went wrong and just understand that you don't want to feel this ever again and allowing them to come back into things because you being up 6, I felt really comfortable at that point. I was saying that they're not going to allow anything over top. And of course, Joe Witt now is going to be put in a position where he's like, I can't sit a single high anymore in these situations. And you want him to be able to feel confident in that scenario, right? Because you're going to have to go too deep because of the non-confidence that you have on the outside.
we'll see. We'll see what Lattimore adds to it as
That's
far as like
true.
what they
That's
can
a
do,
good
they
point.
can't do. What I'm interested to see is Mikey Sammer still going to stay on the outside opposite Lattimore? What are they going to do with St. Juice? Is Noah I going to be on the inside? St. Juice kind of go back to a rotational guy, and so it's going to be interesting going forward. Hopefully, Lattimore can be out there on Thursday. That's going to be the big thing going forward this week.
I really hope so. There's some dude on the Commanders YouTube live stream. Because I was watching Jaden's presser saying that Lattimore got put on IR. His season is over. And when the hell did that happen?
People just be saying literally anything.
It's crazy. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Washington falls to the Steelers 28-27. I hate to say that. And they are now moved to 7-3. And so Philly is in the driving seat of the NFC East. So tomorrow is not a good day. This week is not a good day, but the good thing is we're facing Philly on Thursday. We have the ability to fix that wrong. And typically Washington plays better in Philly. It's something that we know all too well. You know what I'm saying? Have a good week. Try not to beat your guys' self up too much. I think we're going to record on Thursday evening. I have a wedding next weekend, so I'm not sure. I don't think that we're going to be recording on Sunday evening. I'll give you guys more of an update on that. We're going to TJ's wedding on Saturday up in Maryland. Going to go see the Colonel on Sunday, hang out with him a little bit on the way back. But we're going to record on Thursday night after the game. If you're up for it, Adam and Eva is going to join us as well at that time. So hopefully it's in a really good feeling, because that would be awesome. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle. Thank you for all your fan submissions, by the way, on Twitter, on text. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you to Andy. Thank you, Deluxe. Thank you, Tim Towner. Thank you, Yam. We appreciate you guys. Thank you, Christian Burt in the UK. We really appreciate your fan submissions. All right, everybody. We're out of here. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And we'll see you guys again on Thursday night after the game. Washington football. Woo!
Hello.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo, or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.